Hello, and what I'm going to try to do today is talk about when mitosis goes wrong. Mitosis and cancer. If you remember, mitosis is talking about the duplication of cells for growth, repair, replacement. And if you take a look up here, what we start the process with new critters with a zygote. Zygote is just when we take the female gamete, the egg, and the male gamete, the sperm, and we fertilize the egg with the sperm, and we get a zygote. And then the zygote's job is to duplicate itself and create 2 cells into 4 cells into 8 cells, and now you can start seeing it's getting a circular pattern that eventually, when we get to 32 to 64 cells, we get a blastula. This is a cross section of it. It would actually be spherical in shape, and then depending on the critter, it starts specialization. This one, you can actually see it starting to make a gut, a gastrula, which is going to end up being the gut for this starfish. But if this was a human, we'd have the same sort of process where we'd get part of it to differentiate into the head and the nervous cord and the arms and the legs and the skin and the bones and everything else that makes humans humans. We just are talking about mitosis, where we actually get cells to take they get to duplicate form of DNA, which we'll talk about in Unit 7. That's where the DNA and DNA replication is going to talk about from a Google image. And then we actually take those 2 pairs of chromosomes and we split them apart, creating 2 new, in this case, plant cell because of the angular shape. And this is again for growth, replacement, and of the cells that need to get replaced or repaired. When mitosis is a good thing, anytime you actually add or replace cells, like when you make new blood cells or new skin cells or bone cells, that's what mitosis is meant to do. It's for growth and development. And where we take 1 cell, we make 2. We take 2 cells and make 4. We take 4 cells and make 8. Just keeps doubling it. Occasionally, some of these cells die, so we don't exactly get those exact doubling formations. But eventually, with between 41 mitotic divisions, we have a baby that's born, and then you go through quite a few more mitotic divisions, and you become an adult. We can also repair and replace. This is actually the arm of an older starfish that got dismembered, in other words cut off, and it's creating a brand new starfish off the edge. It's not one starfish with an incredibly long arm, it's the regular shaped arm of a starfish growing a new starfish on. When is mitosis a bad thing? Anytime you make cells that are not needed, that are the wrong shape, that do the wrong function, that are in the wrong place, this is when mitosis is bad. These cells take over organs, and organs are supposed to be able to do things like breathe and to filter and all that, and this does not allow them to do their correct job. Here's a cancer tumor in a relatively normal looking lung system. This is a drawing, not what it really looks like, but where you can see that you've got some dysfunctional cells in there. And since lungs are supposed to expand and contract to bring in air with oxygen and to pump out air with carbon dioxide, that is a problem. Then there's a lymphatic system here, which is also going to get compromised if it is a cancerous mass rather than a benign mass. Here's an x-ray showing you normal tissue and then the cancerous tumor sort of in the same location. And then here's a regular, real lung with the cancerous tumor. That would be more like in this position. And you can see that this thing looks like it's maybe got some additional problems because it should not be this color. Probably an adult, probably either a smoker, although it's not as bad as what a smoker's lung could look like, but maybe in a a city environment where there's a lot of pollutants in the air that folks are breathing. But you can see these cells do not look correct. They don't look like they could actually do what this lung is supposed to do with bringing in air and then moving them into the alveoli, which actually takes diffusion and takes the oxygen into the bloodstream to go to the cells, and then brings in carbon dioxide through the veins to the alveoli to actually diffuse back into the air so you can exhale it. Excuse me. They just keep making copies regardless of whether they're needed. It's uncontrolled. This is what's called cancer. Cancer damages organs. Here's a cross-section of a mammalia gland, a breast, and you can see the milk glands that are in there, which actually are supposed to make this organ function, and here is a tumorous cell. This one is growing from a single cancer cell that seems to be pretty shaped correctly. Actually, for a tumor, it also does not seem to be moving into other tissue. This would be more of a benign type, and we'll talk about that, I think, on the next screen. So malignant versus benign. If you take, this is not a cancer cell. It actually is in its own location. It does not seem like it's moving into other tissues, other locations. It's very localized, and it does not spread. It does not metastasize. And then we have what's called a malignant tumor. These guys actually invade neighboring tissues. They also alter blood flow so that they get more nutrients, and then they can also move into blood vessels to move to other organs, which we're going to see in the next slide. Actually, 2 slides. If DNA gets damaged for whatever reason, cells stop listening to the DNA. They don't get their correct instructions, and we call these mutations. And mutations can be good, but most of the time they're bad. What causes a mutation? Lots of things. Ultraviolet radiation from the sun, chemical exposure from living, radiation exposure from either man-made or natural sources like the universe. If you get too hot or too cold, cigarette smoke, particulates in there, even secondhand smoke, pollution, more particulates get in there and they irritate the lung tissue, which over time can actually cause problem. Age, all these, if the longer you've been around the planet exposed to these things, the longer it is, and there is some evidence of genetic problems where you can pick it up from your mom or your dad. There's another problem with is as you get older, these are like the ends of shoestrings that are actually the plastic ends, and they actually keep the DNA together. They're called telomeres. And when these things, when the older you get, the shorter and more frazzled these little end parts get, and I don't like that when that happens. The shorter and the more raveled these things get, and then if it actually gets to the end, the DNA unravels, and then the cell dies because it can't replicate itself. It can't do what it needs to do, because if the DNA unravels, when it goes over to try to unravel it again, it gets confused, and any confusion in cells, you know, is probably not a good thing. Okay, 2 types of tumors, benign tumors. First one's called the benign, and benign tumors are abnormal cells that remain in their original shape and size. They don't grow as quickly, and you can see that they actually end up being relatively smooth, and they're relatively easy to go in and cut out. They do not cause serious problems and may be removed by surgery fairly easily. You can see a single cell that grows from a single cancer cell like we saw again in the breast. And then a malignant tumor, these are actually when cells leave the original site. They take a different shape. You can see this would be a tougher thing to try to get out. And this is why we do whole breast mastectomies, where we cut out the whole thing because we can't really go in and do it. And this is what's called metastasizing, where it gets carried through blood system or your lymph system to other parts of your body. And this is the start of a cancerous tumor. So a cancerous tumor invades neighboring tissue, and then it can also spread through your lymphatic and blood vessels to other parts of your body. This damages the function of this organ plus any other organ that it goes to, like it can go to your lungs or your heart or your skin or your bones or your pancreas or almost any part of your body that has cells, which is everything. And then we have what's called angiogenesis. Malignancy doesn't work unless we can get a blood supply to bring in all the nutrients. This is a cancer cell. Cancer cells are actually trying to go through mitosis faster than normal cells, so they require lots of energy. They actually get hungry. They need more oxygen and more carbohydrates, more lipids, more proteins, more nucleic acids than a regular cell just to get fed. So here is the somatic mutation. This is a non-sex cell. This is every other cell minus the sperm if you're a male or the eggs if you're a female. This is a somatic cell that gets mutated, and what it does, it starts making different size cells. It actually is called a tumor, and if the tumor actually gives out the right type of secretions, proteins that actually tell this cell to make new blood cells, and angiogenesis is the birth of new blood vessels. If it doesn't get new blood vessels, the cells will die and your tumor will not grow. But if it does actually get these new blood vessels, you can see the blood vessels go in. They provide these cells with much more nutrition, oxygen. They take away waste products, and these cells can just go wild. And it also gives them a chance to move into blood vessels to move to other locations. Here's the same thing where we actually take cancer cells. They emit factors, proteins to actually say grow, and these blood vessels will grow up, and then this cancer can actually continue to grow. This is a YouTube site, which if I can do, if I can get to the other site, how come I can't get it? Well, let me just end this show, and let's go into this and angiogenic signaling. And I love it when things work the way they're supposed to.
Angiogenesis is a vital process that facilitates tumor growth and survival. Tumor angiogenesis
This is the cancer
refers
cells.
to the ability of a tumor to stimulate new blood vessel formation. This critical step in tumor development enables tumor expansion, local invasion, and metastasis through delivery of oxygen, nutrients, and survival factors, production of growth factors that benefit tumor cells, and providing a route for tumor cell egress. There are several important factors in angiogenesis.
Lots of proteins.
Endothelial growth factor, VEGF, which promotes endothelial cell proliferation and migration.
Sending out signals to the cells to grow new cells.
Other angiogenesis regulators include EGFL7 and alpha-5 beta-1 integrin, which contribute to the process of new blood vessel formation.
And now you can see the new blood vessel forming at this end.
Cellular matrix, endothelial cell.
Notice new cells.
EGFL7 and alpha-5 beta-1 integrin expression is detected in
Blood vessels,
including
new blood cells.
Genentech Bio-Oncology is researching new ways to inhibit tumor vascular growth and survival.
Okay, so we get a cancer cell to actually grow, and you know what? I should go back into that and shut it off because I don't want it to go to a new. I'm just going to go ahead and close this. Let's go back into this one. So we actually have this cancer cell which is producing proteins, factors to actually make new blood cells, called in a process called angiostimulation, angiogenesis. Treatments for cancer. Treatments actually kill rapidly growing cells. So what we can do is we can use chemicals, we can use radiation, things that are bad for cells. Process called chemotherapy, which is just poison therapy, where we actually put poisons into your body to kill rapidly growing cells. Cancer cells are growing faster than normal cells. So what we want them to do is we want this chemical to go where it's badly needed, in other words, where the cancer is growing. So what we do is we normally give the patient an IV tube, and we can actually inject the chemicals right into the IV. These are poisonous drugs that kill rapidly dividing cells. We can also use radiation to actually pinpoint. This is a woman probably with breast cancer, and what we're doing is we're actually trying to aim these. And the problem with radiation is we don't want the radiation to go right through your whole entire body because it could actually affect lungs and heart and other things. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to aim it so that it actually hits the affected tissue. If you had stomach cancer, they'd want to aim it to whatever part. If you had mouth cancer, they'd want to aim it at just this part. We don't want to actually affect the brain or anything else. Then side effects, it's killing rapidly growing cells. Hair is a rapidly growing cell. So eyebrows, eyelashes, and hair may actually get chemotherapy, or radiation may actually get to the point where we kill them. So your hair could fall out. And we can see that this woman does not have any hair, so she wears a wig to look what we consider normal, and that's either a choice of her or society. Okay, cancer, when mitosis goes bad. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it, and we'll see you later on.